Do it.
Welcome to Ask Gwen, everyone. This morning, as we record this, it's October 28th, and it's a little bit scary that we're almost to November of 2020. And I know most of you want to kiss 2020 goodbye at this point, but we still have a couple months to go of 2020. But I want to bring you another inspirational guest, Miss Kate, and I'm going to let Miss Kate take it away and share her story with you guys.
Wynn, thank you so much for having me on. I am so honored to be a part of your show. My name is Kate Bryan. For everybody who's listening, I am based in Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, a lot of times, gets a bad name, a bad rap, but to me, Detroit has always been the perfect mix of beauty and grit. The people that are here are so beautiful and loving, but they're also gritty and they work really hard and they believe in the city and they believe in themselves and they support one another. So I'm just so grateful to live in a place like this. I was born and raised in Michigan. I was born with something called Job syndrome. So it's a very rare immune deficiency where when I was little, I had terrible eczema, terrible skin condition, and there were only 25 documented cases in the entire US. And my youngest sister also has it. So it's amazing. It's crazy that in a family, two people had this very rare immune deficiency. And so when I was younger, I kind of went through this. Started out as being a really courageous, um, thoughtful little kid, and was very confident in my beliefs. But then, just through bullying, I think everybody who's listening can relate to this in some aspect. Through bullying and through some other difficulties in school, I just full out stopped talking. I felt like I was beaten down by the world in ways just as a little kid in first grade. And I think all of us can relate to that because our lives, we start out as this really passionate child, and then different people or different things in our lives can kind of weigh us down and change the trajectory of our lives. And so for me, I did Irish dancing. My mom put me in Irish dancing and a couple of things that kind of brought back out this girl, the little girl that I once was, because I had gone from being this very open and inquisitive and curious little girl to being a very insular. I didn't really talk a lot to my mom putting me in Irish dancing and some other things kind of opened my life back up and reminded me of the girl that I was created to be, the woman that I was created to be. And so that's a story that I bring up with my life because it really led me to where I am today. So I'm the founder of something called One Girl Revolution. And it's a social platform and podcast and video platform that tells the stories of everyday women who are changing the world through their lives. And the whole idea, when I first started it, some people were like, why isn't it called One Woman Revolution? But for me, I think all of us need to be reminded of the person that we were created to be, no matter who you are. This is not just to say that only women matter, or women's lives matter, but we all can be weighed down by things that are going on in the world. Obviously 2020 has been so difficult for so many of us and we've all had struggles, but I think that there's something inside of each and every one of us that needs to be awakened because we were created for a purpose. We are as unique as our fingerprints. And if we really believed that, our lives would look so different. So, over the past 2 years, I've interviewed almost 100 women. So by the end of the year, I'll have interviewed 100 women. And most recently, I had a short documentary that came out, and it's on YouTube, called The Girl Inside. And I actually followed a professor who teaches storytelling to incarcerated women within Cook County Jail. And her whole vision behind it is exactly what I said before, is that if you really believed that you had a purpose and that you were as unique as your fingerprint and that you mattered, how differently your life would look. And so she walks through all these exercises, and at the end of the documentary, she gives these women, these 5 inmates that we worked with, she gives them an opportunity to talk about their lives and what they share and their purpose, and how, they were an empty shell when they came to Cook County, when they ended up in jail. And now through this class, they were reminded of the girl inside, the woman that they were created to be, and that now they have hopes and dreams, and can't wait to see what the future holds. So that's kind of a little synopsis just of everything that where I started and where I am today. There's a lot more that I could share. I've moved around and done a lot of different things, and my background's in PR and media. So, um, yeah, it's been a gift to be a part of this project.
Now, I have a question for you. What has been your favorite podcast episode that you have done?
That's a great question. I would say that all of them in different ways have touched my lives in different ways. And some have been very surprising. And I'm sure that you can relate to this. Sometimes you book a podcast guest and you maybe don't have a personal connection to their story, but it's still interesting. So, one instance was I did an episode on dyslexia. And me, for instance, like I don't have, as far as I know, I don't have a personal connection to dyslexia, but there was a woman who started a network for families with children with dyslexia, or really anybody that had dyslexia. But that episode just opened my eyes in different ways. So I think for me, overall, it's been the surprises have been so cool with the podcast. But an episode that touched me in a really special way was, there's a little girl in Arkansas and her name is Ruby, and I think she just turned 13, and her mom is a nurse at a senior living facility in Arkansas, middle of nowhere, Arkansas. And little Ruby at 9 years old would go with her mom, who was a nurse at the senior living facility. She would go with her mom to work, and would sit there and just write in her little books or color or do different things. And then she started just interviewing or just talking to the different folks that lived in the senior living facility. And she started realizing that some of them didn't have people that came to visit them. Some of them wanted things, just little things, like they missed Oreos, or they loved the movie Dumbo and hadn't seen it in 40 years or whatever. They had all these little things that they wanted or missed. And so this little girl, Ruby, started taking her notebook around the senior living facility and interviewing the elderly there. And she said, if you could have three wishes, what would you choose? And like I said, some were just silly little things. I love Fritos, or I love Coca-Cola in a glass can. And some were bigger things. One of the women wanted to go to a wedding. So she was like, I had really want to go to a wedding. And so Ruby started partnering with her friends and her family and getting other people to support her. And she started answering or granting the wishes of all these folks that lived in the senior living facility. And so here I'm interviewing this like 13-year-old girl, because now she's 13. So it's been going on for 4 years. And I was so inspired by her because it started so small and now it's national, and it might even be international now too, because I know that it's national and they're partnering with different senior living facilities, places, and granting wishes. So that's one that's really special to me.
How cool is that? Uh, for those of you that don't know, and of course, I will never, ever, ever be involved in this because I can't. Trust me, I tried and no go on this one. But for those of you who know about Make a Wish, this is something similar to Make a Wish. And so the reason why I can't be involved, well, I can, but the reason why I wouldn't be a recipient to Make a Wish, and trust me, I've looked into this, um, is because cerebral palsy doesn't count. It's terminal conditions that Make a Wish deals with, and of course, cerebral palsy isn't terminal; it's neurological. But I think any version of Make a Wish is a A plus plus in my book because, and I believe in what you're doing, One Girl Revolution, because I believe in empowering women from all walks of life is something that needs to be done loud and clear. It needs to be um, done loud and clear, especially in 2020.
Yeah. And even like the little things, I think it's so important for all of us to think about. And like you said, even with Make a Wish, we always think about the big things, right? So, like, what's a big thing that we can do for someone? But sometimes it's just the little things. And even our lives, like, sometimes our lives are the only stories that are going to touch other people, a couple of people, even if we have these big hopes and dreams and goals, and, some people want to be famous and they want everyone to know them. But sometimes the people around us, that's our purpose. We might be the only person to help someone else in our community or in our circle. And that's what I loved so much about Ruby's story, is just, it's in the little things. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Sometimes it's the little things that can make such a difference.
It doesn't have to be a big giant thing. It has to be a little thing. I have a little thing going on right now that's going to turn into a big giant thing. Let's just put it that way. And I have, if everything works out in my favor, I will be doing this big giant thing in the spring. So I don't have to deal with the snow. But right now, it is I just got the major update last night, and we hope that things are looking good. And we do have a backup plan if this plan doesn't work out. But apparently, I have guardian angels watching out there. I didn't even know this was going on until Monday, and then by the time it hit Wednesday night, I found out what I wanted to find out. So I'll let you guys know what the big announcement is. But so far, so good on that. And I am happy to say that it has nothing to do with the podcast. The podcast will be affected by it, but not yet. Not yet. I thought the podcast would be affected by it sooner, but it turns out that if everything goes according to plan, the podcast won't be affected by it too much. And so I'm really happy to say that. But anyway, it's just about the little things. It's just about the perfect timing. So I want to ask you, Kate, what is your favorite book?
My favorite book is it's a book by Bobby Bones, who's a radio personality in country music, and it's called Fight, Grind, Repeat. And he just was such an inspiration, and he talked about how he talks a lot about failure. And how a lot of times we see failure as a negative, but it actually can lead us to where we're supposed to be in our lives. And sometimes failure can be a good thing. So that's my favorite book.
Yeah, well, I think me failing at education as a teacher, not as a student, you guys, not as a student, um, but as a teacher, brought me to the place in getting my true passion and getting paid for my true passion, which is journalism. And so, if your BFF had to write a book about you, Kate, what would the title be?
I think that it would actually be called the One Girl Revolution, because I always, with everything that I'm doing with One Girl Revolution, I never want to be in the spotlight. I am always like, I want to elevate other people around me. And, I want to tell people stories. And even with interviews that I've done, I always kind of fade into the shadows a little bit. But my friends are always like, Kate, you're the original One Girl Revolution. So yeah, it would be called probably the One Girl Revolution
Yeah,
or the original One Girl Revolution.
yeah, the original. And now, what is your morning routine?
My morning routine is I wish that I was one of those people like you were sharing before. I wish I got up super early and I need to get on that path where I get up at like 4:30 or 5, but I usually get up by 6:30 and wake up, have my coffee, try to find some peace, so some time just to sit and be because I found that days where I wake up and jump right into emails and jump right into life and work and everything else going on, my world ends up just being chaos all day. So I try to find a little bit of time just to center and be. I love putting candles out even in the morning, especially now that it's getting dark in the fall and winter months. But just drinking coffee, having a little time just to be, some days reading or journaling a little bit, and then jumping right into it. So usually by like 8 or 8:30, I'm right into emails and getting things rolling for the day.
Yeah, so at least you have some peace to your day. And unless you, when you don't get that, your day
Right.
goes, it leaves itself and then
Yeah.
it's hard to rein it back in. And it leaves itself and then it's hard to rein it back in. But having peace in your day, whether it's reading any sense of reading, or whether it's joining a Bible study, or whether it's doing something that is just you time and it doesn't have to involve anyone else. Um, that's great. And now, as we wrap this interview up, do you have any questions for me?
I do. I actually am so curious to know who is a woman that you admire that inspires you?
That would be two. And I wish I caught this woman on the microphone, but this woman, by the time she was ready to be caught on mic, um, she wasn't in a good spot. Although she did give me the courage to write my first book, which is now 10 years old. Thank you, Mom. That would be my biological mom. And I wish I never went into education. I wish I had the wherewithal to catch um, her wisdom on the microphone so that you guys could hear it. But I wasn't technologically savvy enough to do that. And so, but we had great mother-daughter relationship. And even though we had our squabbles, and I finally figured it out after 10 years later. I finally figured it out why. Because she was cancer, I'm a cancer, and we're 6 days apart. And so we not only had the unique challenges of metadata as everyone does, but she and I were two peas in a pod because we were 6 days in 6 days apart birth wise. And then she was also my primary caregiver up until the day she got medevac out. And it was tough. I mean, it was tough. I had, they say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to raise a disabled adult slash child. And so I'm super lucky that I have many, many women in my life that I can, including my stepmom. And I have many, many women in my life that could, if I needed something, they would be right there with me. And her best friend, who's actually helping me with a project right now, 10 years later, believe it or not, um, sat with me the day my biological mom, got medevaced out. And every single time I hear a medevac plane fly over my house and give me the heebie jeebies, still 10 years later, because she was one of those people that wouldn't go down without a fight. And she herself had asthma, and she wouldn't go down without a fight. And apparently, I've been told um, that after 4 hours of her having a brain surgery to clot a small leaking brain aneurysm, she decided to not only follow doctor's directions and name all the people in the room, but the the first person and the first full sentence after when she came out was who's taking care of Lynn, and I'm like, okay, who's taking care of who? You're supposed to be taking care of yourself, not worrying about who's taking care of me. Trust me, at that point I was being taken care of, but she she, like most mommies, are willing and able to take care of me. So that's woman number one. The second woman that really inspires me is Michelle Obama. And not because of a political sense, but because of, again, a great mom sense. I mean, when Barack went into the White House, she moved her own mother into the White House to help take care of Sasha and Malia. So, and if you guys have ever read the book Becoming, Michelle's autobiography, um, she will say, because people ask her all the time, you were such a great first lady, you got kids moving, you got all this stuff going. And she will say, I will never, ever, ever, ever be in politics. Never, ever will I take the spotlight. She's like you, Kate. She likes to fade into the dark. And I'm thinking, okay, if I can interview Michelle Obama, that would be a real feather in my cap, even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 45 minutes, I'll take it. Just because I want to not talk about politics, I want to talk about raising children in the White House.
That's incredible. She's yeah, that those are two incredible examples, and I love what you did too, because we all have these people in the world that we're inspired by that maybe have a platform like Michelle Obama or others that we admire, but just as importantly, we have people, women in our own lives that are the one girl revolutions that are changing our lives and changing the world just through loving, just through loving their children and their families and the friends and those around them. And so I love what you did there, how you brought up
Yeah.
two different people in two different
True,
spectrums. And the
true.
other question that I had for you in the other question I had for you was, so 2020 has been such a difficult time for everyone. Of course, people have lost jobs, people
Yeah.
have lost family members, people have got COVID. What's given you hope and inspiration during this difficult time, this difficult year?
That I am still lucky to be up and breathing and not stuck in a hospital because um, even though, and you guys can at me for this one, even though I don't believe in flu shots, I haven't believed in them since 2006. The only reason why I got flu shots for 13 years is because I was in education up until March 13th of 2020 due to the world pandemic. I lost my job. I was one of the thousands of Americans that lost their job. And so I decided to get a flu shot only because of everything that's going on. Because I'm at high risk for what's going on, and because even though I'm planning to travel again, and it's looking like 2021 now, if everything goes according to plan, I will be physically traveling in 2021, and I will be happy enough to do so, mask up, mask on the airplane, yes. And but even though it's a little bit of a trick, I'm just very, very lucky that I don't have what's going on. I'm watching it as a journalist. I'm watching it as a disabled woman. I'm watching it as a gay disabled woman. I'm like listening to the news or trying to every 2 seconds and trying to figure out what my own next move is going to be. And I just feel that what gives me hope is that I'm still able to walk out to my desk every morning and give you guys some sort of hope to mask up, to carry on, to and I applaud all the teachers out there. Teachers will always be, I have several friends, several dear friends who are teachers. Teachers will always be near and dear to my heart because I think that teachers are the number one golden first responders right now. I mean, if it isn't the parents who are trying to be teachers, I think it's the teachers that are wanting to be back in the classroom. And my ultimate goal is to put boots on the ground all all across the U.S., including Michigan, including Florida, including Colorado, and number one, give these teachers a hug. Number two, give them $1,000 and say, here, I'll you take this, I'll take your kids for at least a good half an hour and teach them a lesson on diversity. And so that is my ultimate goal to be in the financial spot where I can give a deserving teacher a $1,000 and say, "Here, you take this. I'll take the kids, and then we can work on it together." Because I think that the special ed system is getting so screwed up right now that it's not always pretty, and I am considering going back and getting my master's degree in special ed just so I can use it not in classroom sense because the classroom sense would be way too tough for me, but just so I can use it as a base point. But I will always be a special ed kid. I've always will be special ed adult too. And as soon as I finish up my journalism degree, I'm actually unschooling myself for a little while and then figuring out what to get my master's degree in and then reapplying to school. And then it's either get a master's degree in journalism or it's either get a master's degree in special ed.
That's amazing. I can't wait to see what you teased it out, but I can't wait to see what the news is for next year because I can't
Oh,
wait to see
yeah,
what the future holds for
yeah,
you because I feel
I,
like there are a lot
yeah.
of great things going on.
No, there is, and let's just put it this way. As I said, I have guardian angels watching me. I had a plan, and the plan dissolved um, as of Monday, and so I'm waiting on the updated plan. But if we need to go back to plan A, we need to go back to plan A. But if plan B works, which now has turned into plan A will stay. I thought I was going to tell you guys this is the plan. We're doing something, but I am super excited. I just need to make sure every duck is in a row and all the T's are and the I's are crossed before I officially announce it. But to to give it to you guys, it's gonna be better in the long run for you guys, and it's gonna be better in the long run for us when podcast because um you guys will get my full and undivided attention after I make this step forward.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to follow.
Yeah, yeah, you should be. And Kate, where can people find you if they choose to do so and join the One Girl Revolution, which I'm going to join after we hang up?
Oh, thank you so much. People can find me at One Girl. So it's the number One Girl Revolution.com. So onegirlrevolution.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at One Girl Revo. So the number One Girl REVO. So anywhere they can find me, and I'm very accessible for messages. So if people want a message, if they have ideas for stories that we should be covering, send them my way.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous podcast, and I um, really appreciate the support, you guys, and really appreciate everything you guys have done due to the fan base reach out on my behalf or due to just sharing this episode and raising my story to our next level and then interviewing me and just raising awareness about cerebral palsy and soon to be raising awareness about another condition, but we're on I'm on a quest to get diagnosed officially, but I'm 99% sure I have it. And because, as I said, I have a family history of the condition I'm on a quest to being officially diagnosed with. And so we'll see what happens in December with that. And so those of you that know me know that I don't go down without a fight. And this other condition is being will be monitored, will be taken care of. And I just have to make sure that and this other condition semi impacts my career as a journalist, but I know that if because of my family history and because of the way I was raised with this condition, I am thinking that I'm going to be handling it better than the previous generation due to I can get a lot of help. And so now there's a lot of help for this condition. But I appreciate you guys and I will catch you guys later. And I hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode. And please go vote. Please go vote. And then if you want to join the One Girl Revolution, please do that and just have fun and listening to Kate's podcast and let's make this world a better place. See you guys. Thanks. See you guys. Bye, you guys.
Thanks, Win.